This podcast is based on real events and personal experiences. Some details may be altered to protect privacy. The opinions and deductions shared are mine alone. While based on real events, the names and certain details have been changed to maintain privacy and respect for all involved. You know when you're scrolling through Instagram Reels all caught up and suddenly one appears that someone you follow has liked, sparking your curiosity? That's exactly what happened. I was at work, waiting for my boss to arrive, scrolling undisturbed, when my forehead furrowed, and I swiped back to the previous reel. It was the first content Instagram showed me that Mr. Mirage had liked. My curiosity skyrocketed. The clip restarted. A couple at sunset on the beach, arms raised, hands forming the four-letter word love. I watched it again and checked his username. It was adorable. The boy was romantic. Before I even realized, my fingers had already tapped the heart, driven more by instinct than reason. As if somehow he could sense that I liked it too and draw some cosmic conclusion that we were meant to be. But then reality hit. I unliked the post, feeling silly. My eyes lingered on the reel and his username one last time, and I couldn't help but wonder, who will he share a moment like that with one day? What would it be like if it were me? I let those fantasies dissolve and kept scrolling. It's Monday, October 21st, 2024, at 9 p.m. sharp in Italy. The rain has finally stopped, sparing my region from despair. Though the sky remains covered in stubborn clouds, making it hard to remember the warmth of the sun on my skin. Okay, I'm being dramatic, but it really has been ages since the last clear sky. And just like that, my mind drifts back to August 15th, 2024, a day that will end up meaning far more than I ever expected. Hi, I'm your host Jessica, and this is CHARADE. I was lucky enough to get a long weekend off work. Initially, I had planned a trip to Porto, but decided instead to explore nearby places. Ericeira became my first stop. A colleague had recommended it, and I was curious to see if its whitewashed houses were as charming as Google Maps made them look, almost like a slice of grease. I headed to Campo Grande to catch the bus, but it never showed up. Determined not to let the delay ruin my plans, I booked an Uber. My driver was the first and only woman to drive me around Portugal, a rare occurrence that deserved a mention. As the highway stretched endlessly ahead, I replied to Mr. Mirage's message from the night before, wishing him good morning and casually mentioning my visit to Ericeira. How cool that I'm coming to Ericeira today! I'll help my friend fix his car. I don't know what time we're going to finish. If I do, I'd like to see you today. Was he thinking the same thing I was? That maybe fate was playing its hand, bringing us to the same place without prior planning? The possibility of an unexpected encounter added a spark of excitement to the day. That sounds lovely! Then in case, hit me up when you're done so we can meet up. I replied with practiced nonchalance. He read the message, but didn't respond. A reaction would have been nice, but I shrugged it off, deciding to let the day unfold as it would. When I stepped around the car around lunchtime, I noticed the air was cooler than in Lisbon, despite the sun shining brightly overhead. Dressed in tourist gear, no swimsuit, no beach towel, I feared the chill, so I opted for my favorite jeans and t-shirt. Without thinking much, I strolled past Villa Galé Hotel and found myself standing atop a cliff overlooking the shimmering turquoise waves. The ocean stretched endlessly before me, wild and untamed. The salty breeze brushed against my skin. How wonderful! Overwhelmed by the beauty around me, I video called my mother to share the stunning view, mentioning my plan to explore the beaches I could see from that vantage point. The day felt full of possibility, as if something special was just waiting to happen. Hey there, listener! While you are deep in this story, Here is a thought. Ever wondered if your adventures could inspire someone else? I want to hear from you. Share your impressions about this episode, Mr. Mirage, or your own unforgettable experiences. Email me at thecharadepodcast@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at jessie.charade. Here's the twist. In an upcoming episode, I'll feature your stories, anonymously or not, so your voice can join the journey. Don't miss the chance to be a part of Charade. Let's make it personal. Now, back to our story. The small rhythms of Latin beats and soulful melodies kept me company as Mr. Mirage maintained his radio silence. No, hey, are you there? A stark contrast to his usual, let me know when you get home, whenever I went out for fun. Yet, he found time to post Instagram stories, scenes of him fixing the car with his friends. Something about his attitude didn't sit right. I changed the song and slipped my phone into my pocket. No way I was letting a temporary presence overshadow my day. I sat on a bench for lunch, admiring the waves, no thoughts clouding my mind, except feeling lucky to be there. Studying the town map, I tried to figure out how to reach the town center. I assumed, like in Italian cities, there'd be a main street lined up with shops or something similar. So, with my favorite artist speaking louder than Mr. Mirage's silence, I set off exploring again. At the very least, a simple message would have been expected. Hey, I don't think I can make this afternoon. Enjoy Ericeira and tell me about it when you get home. Just basic communicative decency, right? Besides, given the nearly hour-long ride from Lisbon to Ericeira, staying late wasn't an option for me the way it was for him. He lived just 20 minutes away. Letting out a small sigh, I tucked my phone back into my pocket and let the wind and the ocean sweep away my lingering expectations. Good news, I found the main avenue, though none of the stores felt familiar. After checking Google Maps again, I headed toward the São Sebastião viewpoint. The wind there was fierce, nearly snatching my head away. Still, I managed to spot some surfers riding the waves and video called my mother to share the stunning ocean view. Retracing my steps, I rewarded myself with a scoop of hazelnut and pistachio ice cream. By the time I finished exploring the town center, it was almost 4 in the afternoon. Radio silence, it continued. Instagram stories, too. I threw in the towel, but deep down, I knew that when I truly wanted to see someone, I made it happen. A couple of hours with friends could always be sacrificed, if only to send a quick update. It wasn't that hard. His lack of consideration told me more than words ever could. Anger simmered beneath the surface, sparked by his indifference and pure communication. Thoughts raced through my mind. How dare he? Who does he think he is? More importantly, who does he think he's dealing with? Someone on his beck and call waiting to fit into his schedule? And my tourist day in Ericeira was drawing to a close. Ideally, I would have stayed to watch the sunset, but the thought of being stranded while he went about his life without a second thought didn't sit right with me. I wasn't generous enough to let him hold that kind of power over me, nor would I ever give it. Within 5 minutes, my Uber arrived, a sleek modern car driven by a friendly local. For a fleeting moment, I considered asking his opinion on such behavior, but quickly dismissed the idea. I already knew the answer. Vehemently, my mind snapped. Don't even think about it. Yoo-hoo! He disrespected you. Don't overlook that. Enough. Don't let him trample on your dignity. He's a nobody. Remember how it went last time? You promised yourself not to repeat that. Yet, another voice whispered, it's mid-month, where we will find another attractive guy to hang out with on such short notice. His attitude stinks, but we know him. There's chemistry. If Mr. Mirage had been there, I might have thrown him off a cliff. But for the first time during that Uber ride back to Lisbon, clarity struck like lightning. I owned my world. Still, sending a text like, hey, this is over, felt impossible. I'd be labeled like the crazy one, overreacting without reason. No, it couldn't be that simple. Impulsive by nature, I hated waiting, but it seemed like the only option. Once home, I called my fried nerves by planning the rest of my day and organizing a night out with friends. There was no way I'd let that situation imprison me. Lisbon was meant for fun, not for being entangled in a boys' eagle-fueled drama. The solution came swiftly. I found myself sitting on the steps of Praça do Comércio, seeking refuge from the blazing afternoon sun. Unfortunately, one universal truth remained. The more you try to avoid thinking about something, the more it seizes your mind. Just then, I glanced up from my phone and locked eyes with a boy driving a van stopped at the traffic light. Our gaze lingered longer than it should have, and smiles began to form on our lips. As the van rolled away, I silently thanked him for adding a spot of light to my day. And that felt like the right word. I had enjoyed it at Ericeira, but I still couldn't let Mr. Mirage discard the slide. Basic human decency was the bare minimum. By now, you're probably wondering, when did he finally text? He had the audacity to text me at 7 and 12 p.m., 8 hours and 49 minutes later. Olá, gatinha. I'm going to Ericeira now. Are you still there? Content with holding the upper end, I decided to repay him with silence. A calculated one. I wasn't about to stoop to his level, but he needed to know that my world didn't revolve around him. I'd read his message later that night after enjoying the rest of my day. My priorities came first, not some guy I'd barely known for a month. A night out with friends had taken the edge of my frustration. My radio silence now stretched to 15 hours and 12 minutes. And of course, there was no, "Hey, are you okay? You haven't been in touch. Did something happen?" Heaven forbid it show more interesting than strictly necessary. What did that reveal about him? Sure, we weren't together, but respect still mattered. I viewed this message, switched my phone to airplane mode, and let Morpheus do his thing. The noisy traffic outside jolted me awake. August 16, 2024. The date marked an event at booked since mid-July. A sunset DJ set on a boat. I felt intrepid. The lingering doubt surfaced. I was going alone and didn't know anyone. While making breakfast, my mind buzzed. I wonder if they'll play my favorite artists. Then came a more practical concern. What if people get so drunk they start pouring their souls into the tagus? My thoughts felt like a scattered archipelago of concerns. Yet one matter loomed larger. I waited until after breakfast to open Instagram, not just to preserve the joy of my favorite meal, but also to maintain an air of cool detachment. There it was, a message from him. Maybe a good morning text? Of course not. It was a reel he had shared. I didn't even bother to open it. That reel only confirmed how little he grasped the situation. With a clear mind and a full stomach, I faced two options. A. Pretend I was unfazed and see if he'd address the elephant in the room. Or B. Confront him. Always and without fail, option B. My first instinct? To unleash a fiery, well-deserved rant. "You fucking asshole! How dare you treat me like this?" But nah, I went for something more composed, honest, but without exposing the full emotional toll his actions had taken on me. Hey, I need to be honest. I'm not cool at all with how things went down yesterday. I would have appreciated a heads up if things weren't going to work out. I'm not into being treated like an afterthought, so I just wanted to be clear about that. I was pleased as I articulated my points clearly without sounding irrational. After all, aren't we all a little frustrated these days because of men like him? Yesterday, I went to Ericeira just because I wanted to see you, but you didn't even answer me. The audacity. Was Mr. Mirage serious? Claiming he wasn't excited about Ericeira while posting sunset shots all smiles with his crew? Spare me the performance of the misunderstood victim. I expected better. A typical response might have been, "Why didn't you reach out again if you wanted to see me?" But I held back. You know why? Because Mr. Mirage would have come up with some lame excuse like, "I thought you were busy enjoying Ericeira. Didn't want to bother you." I wasn't about to let him deflect from the real issue. His behavior. Let's be clear, you told me you were going to Ericeira anyway, so don't act like you made a special trip for me. I can't be expected to wait around while you handle everything else. There's a difference between making time for someone and fitting them when it's convenient. I'm looking for the former. With that, I made it clear his victim mentality wouldn't work on me. I was ready to set things straight, even if it meant closing this chapter. Jesse, look. Yesterday I spent the whole day assembling the parts in my friend's car. I wasn't even excited about going to Ericeira, but I went anyway because you had sent a message saying you will be there. If he'd been sitting right across from me, I'd have left. Mr. Mirage expected me to believe he wasn't excited to go to Ericeira. What about the stories from the night before with a beautiful sunset on the beach and all the smiles? Who made him post those? His desire to see me? Before I could reply, he added, if I wasn't feeling bad today, I would go to Lisbon to see you, even if it's just for a few minutes. Again, he spun a dramatic tale about his situation, trying to make me believe that, had it not been for these unexpected circumstances, he'd have jumped in an Uber to see me. Blah, blah, blah. But where were his actions to back it up? It was clear I needed a change of approach. I gather you had a busy day. We didn't have it planned to spend it together, so I appreciate you wanting to see me. But it's not just about the effort, it's about keeping me in the loop, so I'm not left wondering what's going on. That's what's important to me. Flip the situation for a second. Imagine you coming to Lisboa and me hitting you up at 7 p.m. after you spend the whole day there. Would you welcome me with open arms and confetti? Nah, didn't think so. I wanted him to step into my shoes because, let's face it, validation felt important. Not just for me, but because people often only understand your feelings when they experience them firsthand. I was sure he wouldn't have liked being treated the way I had been. So why should it have been okay for me? If the roles were reversed, I'd have done something like ask my friends if I could step away for a few hours to be with him. A simple text saying, hey bellissimo, I think I'll be done by this time. Is that still okay with you? Would have been enough. If the roles were switched, I wouldn't have gone silent. I understand you. Sorry about that. It really was my mistake. What made me believe his words was the fact that for the first time, a guy wasn't saying something like, sorry you felt that way, as if the fault was somehow mine. I'm not really used to expressing myself very well, but I'll try better if that's important to you. The first part made me roll my eyes. It felt like a weak excuse, especially when he had managed to express himself just fine the last time we were together. Naked. Okay, sure, physical intimacy requires a different kind of commitment than emotional intimacy, but whatever, we were on the same page without things turning into a toxic fight. That's why I was willing to give him the benefit of doubt. In the end, all I could do was acknowledge his behavior and accept that he was, unfortunately, the type of person who acted this way. He tried to shift the conversation by asking if I had enjoyed Ericeira, how my day went, and if I had gone into the water. He casually mentioned that he had sprained his ankle, called me cold-hearted, but his injury felt like a fair trade for the way he had treated me. It made sense why he couldn't just hop into an Uber to prove something. Oh, and can you guess why he needed his ankle fixed so badly? No? Okay, I'll tell you. Because he was heading to Setúbal the next day for a camping trip with his friends. That's also why he had been busy fixing the car. Had the previous day not happened, I might have cared more about his injury. But honestly, I felt nothing but indifference. To my great relief, an amazing experience awaited me later that afternoon. I was determined to show him that after our argument, I wouldn't just sit around waiting for some grand gesture. I had a life in Lisbon, with or without him. Have fun at the party today. When I come back from the camp, I have to see you again. I thought I'd see you yesterday. To kill the will, I have to kiss you. Take care of yourself around. Warn me when you are at home. Tomorrow I'll wake up early and answer you. The DJ set was incredible for so many reasons. The beautiful sunset over Lisbon and the view of Praça do Comércio were at the top of the list, followed by the music and the new friends I'd made. On Saturday, August 17, 2024, I went to Caparica with the same roommate who had supported me on my first outing with Mr. Mirage. He seemed eager to show off his improved communication skills by sending me updates about his superficial camping activities. It's hot here, now we're cooking meat, now we're listening to music and talking. I recognized the effort, but part of me felt it was forced and boring. I wasn't interested in his weekend plans, so I gently suggested he enjoy the weekend without sending me those awkward texts. It didn't need to be told twice. On Sunday, August 18, 2024, the last day of the long weekend, I went to Aveiro with another roommate. I didn't mention anything to Mr. Mirage, as our communication had been limited to a good morning with a red heart. Besides, he didn't seem to care how I was spending my day. Around that time, an artist-elect released a song with lyrics that hit home more than I wanted to admit. Something about trying to make things last, only to realize not everything is meant to be. It felt like the universe was trying to tell me that, sadly, things between us weren't meant to last. But I pushed those thoughts aside and focused on the present. I was in another city in Portugal, halfway between Lisbon and Porto. Aveiro, the Portuguese Venice, captivated me with its colorful houses lining Costa Nova Bay. We returned home late, and this time he didn't ask me to let him know I was safe. Oh, right, he didn't even realize I had been out of town. He'd only left a lindona on my story, which didn't have a location. To be fair, I climbed into bed without a second thought about whether he'd make it home safely. I had learned the hard way that in any relationship, it's essential to keep a one-on-one ratio. I was willing to give as much as I received. Nothing more, nothing less. And that's a wrap for today's chapter of Charade. Thank you for spending this time with me. It truly means the world. Speaking of journeys, don't miss the next episode, the Trophy Girl Syndrome. We'll dive into the dynamics of a relationship that started strong, only for things to take a turn as I started to see a side of Mr. Mirage I didn't expect. It's a tale of pride, insecurities, and finding out what really matters in the end. Until next time, stay curious and take care. Mwah! I am Jessica, and this is Charade.